本当？見えないでしょ？どこにいるのかな？見えないよ。
What's good, Internet? It's Friday, May 14th, and you are listening to Waypoint Radio, episode 396. I'm your host, Austin Walker. Joining me today, Rob Zachney.
Good morning.
Patrick Klepek.
Hello.
Okay, and Ricardo Contreras. You okay, Patrick?
No, I'm not okay. I keep, you think you're just gonna wake up one day and feel better? Nope. Still feel like trash. Children,
Don't
overrated.
we all?
Well, different kind of trash. You know, it's like, there's like the normal level of trash, and then there's the one that makes it sound like I'm smoking a pack a day.
Sounds like Cado's ready to give us the Destiny update, though, right away.
I was going to talk about how we're closing in on E3 and exciting things. If we want the Destiny update,
No, I didn't want to blow up the. I'm just saying, Cado, day one of a new Destiny season. We all feel life is pain, Patrick.
That's just life, though. Destiny's cool. Destiny's great. It's fun.
Hey, I'm in. But what about my suffering? I am on track to become immune to the COVID. I got shot number 2, and I'm on course to be living God.
Is that how it works?
Yeah.
The worse your shot 2 symptoms are, the more powerful you become. Yes.
God damn, I don't have fucking any, so I'm
screwed. I just had a mild headache for half a day.
Mm-hmm.
No, see, I was told that if I had the symptoms I had, in a couple days, I should be able, Bioshock style, to shoot spike proteins from my forearm and impale my foes.
Cool. Sounds useful.
It does, doesn't it?
Will they also get COVID, or is this like you're now a new ground zero, like major transmission, or what would we, like a super spreader event, a living walking super spreader event?
Well, honestly, I'm picturing more like, fleshets going out and just like perforating enemies. No, I think the point of the vaccine, if I'm clear on this, is that'll be, if anything, the opposite of a super spreader. I will be a lead blocker for people who, don't have that immunity.
I see. Right. In fact, this is what the anti-vaxxers are afraid of when they talk about, like, they don't want to go near people who've been vaxxed because some of the vax might, like, get on them.
Is this what that shedding thing is?
Yeah, dude. Yes.
I've been afraid joking about shedding, and I was like, It's
very stupid. Oh, it's very funny. Yeah, vaccine shedding. Once injected, it's very, very, very. I'm trying to find the exact way that they talk about it.
It's like you have to understand the lore, like lore reasons, bullshit conspiracy theories of the 2020s.
Anyway, it's fake. It's nothing. It's not you're good. I promise that.
Whatever gets them to put on a mask, you know? If we back into a conspiracy theory that gets them to do something good, then all right, sure.
Sure, we
Godspeed
that, I guess. Anyway, where are we? I was gonna say we're coming up tight on E3.
E3 2021 online portal and app details officially reveals first ever virtual experience of worlds.
Slow down. Can we lay this? E3 what?
E3 is back, baby. Patrick, give us the news.
It's an app portal?
E3 2021 is going online next month, and the ESA is offering a first glimpse of what an all-virtual E3 will look like. Details of the event's online portal and app.
Okay, wait. Let me just make
Who do we got? Exhibitor booths. We got lounges.
Wait, no.
Booths?
I was gonna say it's gonna be a website that has some trailers. And then you click on them, and it has like a Steam wish list page. That's it. That's all.
No, this is an online portal created by Game Cloud Network, HCL Technologies, Reverie Incorporated. It's the destination for all things E3. It's bringing media, including a media access week. What do we have? I gotta work before
Did you
E3
say
starts.
Exhibitor booths
featuring special events, VOD, because it's COVID.
Okay.
It's VOD. Content and articles. Exhibitor booths will act as hubs within the portal for key announcements and game information tied to each exhibitor.
So do I need the fucking like head jack from the Matrix to enter the like what is happening?
I don't understand.
Stanley Pierre-Louis, president and CEO of the ESA, says they are creating a bespoke online portal and app. So I guess it will be a website and there will be an app. So most of us will experience this through a website. But there's
Patrick,
also
why does it say there's leaderboards? I don't want E3 to have leaderboards.
They're going to have a profile.
You don't want to win
Gamers.
E3?
Someone is now going to win E3. Someone is going to win.
Hold on. In the past, someone's always won E3. Only now the gamers can win E3. Goodbye, Microsoft. Goodbye, Sony. It's time.
Or are they not coming to E3 this year?
Well, also true. So now the gamers have to win because the competition is much less fierce.
This is all I can show you from the press kit. This is the most that I have to show you of the E3 app. It is got
game
E3
on.
Logo.
E3, game
on.
on.
You ready to game on? You're ready to log in, or you're ready to
sign up.
Sign up.
Wait, do we have to sign up for this now, or can we sign up for this when the app drops?
This looks like a phone ad that they photoshopped their logo onto.
It does. That feels very familiar. That layout.
Our new rose gold E3 2021 model.
Media registration and credentialing will begin later this month. But there's also links to YouTube and Twitch. And they're like,
yeah, sure.
In addition, the primary hubs to watch the E3 2021 broadcast outside of the portal and app include, the places that people will actually watch it, which is Twitch and YouTube. Like there's nothing that's going to be in here that is important that you will not be able to get.
I hope. What if there is? What if they lock trailers behind leaderboards?
Not a chance. Not a chance.
This says that there will be interactive graphics.
Gamified show elements that can be collected and displayed, encouraging fans to interact in as many ways as possible. So what, can I earn a badge that will only work and be important during this E3 week and is locked to the E3 2021 app that I need to open and show people, hey, look at this cool icon I got. I did it. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's not that much different than like unlocking a gun in Destiny, is it?
I feel like unlocking a gun in Destiny is cool because like you get to keep it for the rest of Destiny.
You can keep that app on your phone.
Oh, right, that's not true anymore.
Well, it is and it isn't. It wasn't. It's untrue again.
Schrodinger's firearm.
God.
So, okay. But what if, just imagine a developer just goes whole hog on their virtual like booth and like you step in and it's not just a boring games press website. It's like a beautiful concept art gallery and like little interview features
what?
with virtually step in just the same way you step into a level in a game, the way you step into the Clockwork Mansion, where you're like, ooh, what is this concept art? And then a little trailer plays where people on the dev team, not just the leads, but people actually making the game, get to speak about their craft and share with you the beautiful experiences their craft.
Sounds all right. I would love to step into this world.
I'll bet it'll be just like that.
What year would it have had to have been for this to take place in Second Life?
Well, there have been
this was the joke I made the other day.
The thing is, if you look at the way other festivals have tried to go virtual, one of the it's like maybe not Tribeca. What was one of the major film festivals like in the past year?
Tribeca's right. No,
I don't know if they're the ones that did it, but I was
like a VR, like
a couple of places have done these sort of things where you can like actually go into VR. There are like tables you could like walk over to and have like proximity based voice attempts to try and create some sort of atmosphere that is related to going to a festival. It sounds like high-minded and not exactly a thing that anyone would want.
I'm not
to
laughing at this.
do.
I'm laughing at something else. We'll get there. Rob has a thing though.
So I mean, my partner, a lot of scientific conventions also went in this direction in the last year, and there are some good like solutions for this where like you do create the experience of someone what's cool about conferences where like it's very easy to sidestep into a quick private chat room with somebody to conclude a thought or continue a conversation. Like some companies have done a very good job of figuring out what a virtual conference looks like that captures what's good about remote conferencing and what's good about like in-person conferencing.
We're saying academic conferences on the humanities side have also done a lot of this where it's like, and also an element of this is like, it's expensive to go to one of these conferences, not just because of the ticket price, but because of flights, hotels, etc.
Look at GDC.
Lots of conferences
quintessentially the game industry problem of like everyone to fly to the most expensive city in the country, or one of them. I don't know where San Francisco rank has changed in the last couple of years, but it's up there.
But like that part of it, you're right, Rob. Like that stuff has been cool to see in those little subfields. I think E3 is just not that type of conference, right?
No.
It's not a conference. It's a convention, and conventions are a different thing.
And even then, it's not even a good fan convention. It's like it's off on its own. It is not even a close to a PAX or a Gamescom. Like it's a bad fan convention. So that really they built a shell of an app that's just gonna embed a Twitch stream.
Also, it's gonna crash. This is the thing. If they're not embedding Twitch streams and YouTube videos, if any of this is gonna be like supported on an official E3 server somewhere, let me tell you, we've had histories with E3 servers and whether or not they're reliable and secure.
Yeah, we have.
I feel like maybe I don't have the highest amount of trust.
Also, like when it was prior to June 12th, a 5-day-long media week will utilize the online portal app to help media gain early access to content directly with E3 exhibitors. An online calendar tool, oh boy, will allow for scheduling appointments while also allowing video conferencing and chat. So
there is a world in which that stuff is actually dope. Because
how? Why do I need their fucking calendar?
Well, what if I
get an email from EA?
What if I don't get an email though? What if it all just goes into the portal and my email stays clear this year?
Not a chance. They're going to ask you.
What if they do?
Check your email.
I want them to do it. I want them to do it. I want them to have all the scheduling built into their shit. That would be the best. It would be so good if I.
You think there's a single PR person that's like, yes, I would rather rly on this app as opposed to my big email contact database. No, no.
But if their E3 needed,
gotta find the Zoom link by opening up this app so that it can open up like the Zoom. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
I want to point everyone to this May 6th tweet from @E3. Hope you're getting hungry because we got more chefs in this kitchen this year for E3 2021. Our newest additions: Square Enix, Sega, Bandai Namco, Xseed Games / Marvelous USA, Gearbox Entertainment, Freedom Games, Devious Eye Entertainment, Turtle Beach, Verizon, and Binge.com.
What?
Didn't they also earlier announce Konami, and then Konami recently was like, actually we're good. We don't have anything to show. Sorry.
I don't know, did that happen? I missed that.
I didn't miss the backtrack. I missed the backtrack. I saw that Konami was gonna be there with a game.
No, Konami definitely put out a statement that was like, actually we're not, but we support E3.
Let's go. Yeah.
I can't wait to like you go to the virtual Turtle Beach booth where like you get shitty audio piped in, and then it's like, but then if you were listening to this on a Turtle Beach, it would be like this, and the bit rate like doubles.
Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And
it's just
only get access to lossless.
Fucking with the bit rate on.
Yes, exactly. I mean, that's okay. I don't want to use test Turtle Beach headphones at a big event like that anyway. That's how you get lice. No, thank you. I'm not putting anything on my head at a large event. Anyway, that's E3. Listen, I'm actually excited to have a bunch of game shit happen. Is the thing.
I think we need to change our definition of what is a bunch of game shit. I don't. What is that going to mean?
We'll see.
Sony not going to be there. Okay. Microsoft not going to be there. Bethesda not going to be there. I mean, sure, they could be there, and that they will do like a showcase to support E3, right. I guess. So Sony may not. See. Like Sony's given the middle finger to that show for a couple of years now. Why would they even bother to do much of anything?
Sony has said they're not doing anything that week even. Who is out?
No,
who is like truly out? Their shit's
EA already said, "Hey, we're doing EA Play late July."
EA Play, my favorite part of E3 every year.
But I just mean, but that was part of that week, right? And
yes, it was. It was the first event. It was kind of nice to like get into a fucking car and go in the middle of downtown LA, far away from everything else. And you can get nice food. That was the actual nice part of EA Play was there's some restaurants I like near there. And so, yeah. So no EA for sure. No Sony for sure. Sony's
we don't know.
Nothing
else has been. We don't know. Like
it's in a month. It's in a month.
Yeah.
In fact, a month from today, it will be June 14th, as when people are listening to this, dead in the middle of the Saturday, June 12th to Tuesday, June 15th, E3 4-day weekend.
I mean, Sony has their new Ratchet and Clank game, which looks pretty damn good. Comes out the
So it'd be foolish not to show up or not to drop a trailer, right?
Well, they're dropping a game the day before E3, so I guess.
Oh, so that'll be already out. I see.
Yeah,
I see. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what E3 is. Like, COVID gives a lot of companies some really convenient reasons to not support a thing that's kind of been slowly falling apart anyway. And this feels stitched together in a way that does not seem. I don't know. I have no idea. Give me an Elden Ring trailer, and then I guess E3 was a success.
Finally, FromSoft wins E3.
It's
Maybe,
possible.
like the Phoenix, next year, when everyone is living where I am, which is in the land of immunity,
we already have it.
We can get together.
You're late.
Yeah,
Rob.
I think you're the last one of everyone on this podcast to get it.
Quite literally.
Yeah.
But maybe this is why he's going to get superpowers from it.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
that's true. Got the up.
I got that vintage. I got that Moderna vintage. You got some really quick Moderna, but mine, you can feel the terroir of the shot. But no, maybe next year, like, people will be like, damn, I really missed E3 the way it used to be, and everyone will be like, it'll be like the end of A Wonderful Life, except instead of the townsfolk coming to George Bailey, it'll be like EA and Sony and Microsoft all coming back, and they start seeing Old Lang Syne while giving us game trailers, and games are being dumped into a collective bucket. And Bedford Falls has a games convention again.
Nice. Yeah, everyone loved going to Bedford Falls, Illinois, Indiana. That feels like an Indiana to me. Where's that movie take place?
That's a great question. I've always felt like, where the fuck was Bedford Falls? I always sort of felt it was like upper Midwest.
That sounds right to me. Anyway, apparently it's based on Seneca Falls, New York. So I could see upstate New York makes sense. Okay, it's a fake city. We talk about video games, and also really quick, I do want to note, E3 does say like Capcom will be there, Ubisoft will be there, Warner Brothers will be there. There was that one tweet was new people being added. I want to make sure that no one leaves here thinking or being like, wow, Ubisoft showed up after Austin said they weren't
Warner
be
Brothers,
there.
the publisher that has delayed all their games to 2022 already.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see.
That's the thing, right? It's
maybe
like,
they'll show that rumored, Marvel fighting game that NetherRealm might be working on.
The thing that's going to happen is we're going to see a Breath of the Wild 2 trailer, and that's going to make me feel better about things. That's what's going to happen.
Maybe. I don't know.
They said that there's a Zelda event coming later this year. No, they didn't. That was a fake thing I saw on Twitter.
No.
That wormed its way into my fucking brain, and now I thought it was real. It's fake. Stop lying on Twitter. Stop it.
Skyward Sword HD comes out in July. So it would make sense for there to be something Zelda-y in June. But, couldn't that just most likely be the rumored Wind Waker, collection or whatever that they're doing? They just dropped that in June. They're not going to show Breath of the Wild till September when we're getting closer to whatever the updated Switch. My expectations are on the floor, rolling in the mud for E3. I just don't. You can't. Anyone you talk to about that show just groans, and so why should I have any confidence it's going to be?
Well, we're going to cover it here at waypoint.vice.com and the only way we know how, on the videos and podcasts and news articles.
No, only we're going to build our own app that you can that's the only way you can access our content.
The Waypoint E3 exclusives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There's got to be some sort of just generic app development kit that we can make at this point, right?
Can you build apps in HTML? Because then I got you.
Thank you.
Original HTML, none of this HTML5 shit. I don't know that.
Frames, no frames.
Now we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Nintendo sent us Game Maker's Garage. I don't know, what's that thing called?
Oh,
we got to make an app in it.
Make an app in that.
How to make an app.
Game Builder Garage.
Garage.
Which they announced last week, by the way, and that looks cool. I don't think we talked about that on the podcast.
No, we didn't. Because they just drop a trailer here's this really cool looking game development toolkit.
A lot of the stuff was first showed up in the Labo stuff, and in fact, this was originally going to be a Labo release, right? And then they were let's just
Labo
make
didn't really go anywhere.
Let's just make it for people to play without cardboard.
It looks
like it's like a Nintendo Dreams situation. So
Now, it's hard to tell like what the scale of it. Like Dreams, you can quite literally do just about anything. My guess is this will be a little more restrained, but Dreams also has a pretty high barrier to entry. You can do anything, but it requires you to get there. And it sounds like this actually.
Yeah, I bet you won't be able to bring in outside audio into these games the way you can in Dreams. I feel like,
but it also might be the case
would never take.
Like within 5 minutes, I bet you can build something like a basic game. In this, which would not be possible in Dreams.
Yes. We should talk about some video games we've been playing. Rob, do you have you just finished a preview build of the next entry in the Total War Warhammer series, right? How's that looking?
It's looking pretty good. The battle I played did something really interesting and unexpected. And honestly, it gave me Myth the Fallen Lords vibes in ways that are really nice and familiar. So I guess the conceit for Warhammer 3, although it feels like this conceit for every game, is shit's going down with chaos. Get ready, folks. Chaos is invading the old world.
Yeah.
And so the tenor of this one, though, feels like for real, it's going off this time. And at some point, like, you will be attempting to, like, find and kill the Chaos Gods. And the mission I played was this new type of battle that'll be sort of woven into these campaigns, I think, called a survival battle, where you lead an army into the chaos plane, effectively hell, and you go fight demons and like evil magical creatures there. But the catch is, it's structured totally differently, both from Total War siege battles and Total War field battles, and is much more of a like handcrafted, designed scenario,
like an RTS level more than a kind of grand strategy, like tactical battle, like interwoven. So like these games have you playing a kingdom and you're expanding and stuff like that. So normally the battles are just two armies meet on some plains and hills and forests, and that stuff is kind of dynamic and reflects what's at play. It's not the Myth or Warcraft style of like narrative level design thing. So this is introducing some of that.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things that they're doing with this is they're creating a lot of cool new pressures that you have to respond to. So the mission I played, you are Tsarina Katerine, the head of Fantasy Russia, basically Kislev. They are this faction that has always lived near the Chaos Wastes. The mission is you are going into the chaos, the realms of chaos, and assaulting the citadel there. And you have to bust 3 lines of defenses. And at each one, there's a control point that, as long as it is in chaos hands, their entire army gets a powerful buff, or you get a debuff when you're fighting them. And so not only do you have to break these control points to deactivate these buffs, but also you will need to hold them as you advance. And so your punch gets dissipated as you continue your advance, because like you assault the first gate and now you're onto the inner gate, but chaos like units keep spawning in and counterattacking your position now at the first gate and trying to retake it. And so you need to peel off units to have them hold that position while your army continues attacking forward. And it turns into this really cool, like, it feels like you're fighting on multiple fronts at all times, where like you've got multiple defensives you're managing. Also, you're trying to keep this attack going. And to help you with this, you have a couple things going in your favor. One is that as you wipe out these chaos units, you keep getting this resource supply. Supply you can spend on upgrading your units. You can buy them like nicer armor or weapons, or replenish their losses. Or you can build towers. There's a tower defense element to this thing. and the towers are real hard to, or you can also build like barriers. So you can like create like traps on the ground that like enemy units fighting on them will take damage over time. You can just wall off a section, like a choke point, and they can eventually break it down. But like in the meantime, you can position archers there or something and just like shell them as they're trying to get through. And so you have a lot of, you probably don't have enough resources to do all of these things at once, but you can sort of reshape the battlefield a little bit to try and figure out like how you're going to both hold the ground you've taken, but also have enough striking power to complete the level and take the last position. And at the last position, as you might expect, there's a big chaos demon who effectively serves as the boss of the level.
Sure. Yeah. Which is that? How does that boss stuff work? Is that extending some of like the hero unit stuff that's been in the Warhammer and I guess in the Romance of Three Kingdoms, or not Romance of just the Three Kingdoms stuff previously? Superpower, has some abilities, etc. Hard to kill. Yeah,
basically, I think I think the big thing that they've done in Warhammer is also they created units that have like the modifier large on them. And unless you have weapons that are also rated like good against large enemies or like have that tag on them, the damage is effectively mitigated. And so like the number scales don't get out of whack, but it just like is a different category of character. And so like a huge demon may only have a certain amount of hit points, but your units will not do their full damage against it because they're using weapons that are for like humanoid scale enemies. You need units that have like large weapons to get full damage against that demon. And so you do need like special like hunter killer units to bring this thing down, because otherwise it will turn into everyone just getting mauled by this thing, which is what happened to me. Like, to be clear, I didn't beat this level. It was one of those things where I thought I was doing well, and then I realized what the last stage was, and it was like, oh, I am categorically not ready for this fight. And I ended up getting rolled up. But it was really fun. Even like, I think, this is one of the things, it's fun to lose in games. Like, it can be fun to lose in games. Like, constant progress can be a bit dull. And I think one of the things this reminded me of is the Myth the Fallen Lord series is probably the best example I've ever seen of like RTS tactics being combined with really good level design to create fun scenarios where you're like, how am I supposed to do this? Now I sort of know what the dynamic of this entire encounter is going to be. How do I position my guys? Like, what tempo do I need to operate at? Like, what resources do I really need to conserve here? And there was a lot of that here, where it's not like so many Total War battles. It's kind of rote, where it's like the infantry are going to clash, cavalry's going to sweep around, break them, and that's going to be it. That's job done. Here, because everything is happening in every direction all at once, and you don't really have the capacity to have a cohesive formation, you end up having to fight much more scrappy battles and a lot of like small, really micromanagey encounters rather than relying on your standard Total War bag of tricks. And so that was the thing for me that I was really taken by. I think Total War in general has historically not been very good at scripted battles. I think their scenarios have never been a particularly compelling selling point. I don't think they've ever really figured out how to make cool scenarios out of a system that generally is about dynamic encounters. Here, I think they've kind of done it. And like playing that, I was like definitely ready to play more. And I'm really curious, like how many of these things that are going to be in there.
Yeah,
because it was a really cool change of pace.
Was this the first gameplay preview event for it? So yeah, that feels to me like that's something that they're like proud of and want to show off a little bit, So I feel like that means hopefully there's a few of those if those are actually exciting. And I feel like they kind of have to be if this is the third specific one of these. These have been very successful games. I know the Total War Warhammer ones, but to release 3 in only like 5 years, right? Because the first one of those dropped in 2015, 2016. I would imagine adding some new stuff is a plus for people who have already spent dozens and dozens of hours playing the first of these games and its sequel.
Well, and you can sort of feel like it feels a little long in the tooth. I'm not going to lie about that either. Like just interface wise, like going back to this from Three Kingdoms, I'm like it's communicating information a little less, adeptly. It just feels just a little bit clunkier overall than what is their current like state of the art. And so to an extent, like it kind of felt like if this is going to be the swan song for this vision of like Total War Warhammer, they probably did need to do some things to pull out all the stops. And this feels like a good solution to that. I think this team, the arc of this development has been finding really clever things to do with very specific faction design and faction scenarios. And I think creating these sort of scenario-based missions is a really sensible next step, and bodes well for what the major signature moments of these campaigns will look like.
Totally. All right. I feel like we should take a break. And when we come back, we can talk about some other games we've been playing. BRB. We are back. I picked up that, I know y'all already talked about this a bunch, but that Resident Evil Village. It's called Village. It's not called 8.
Yeah, it's not. I believe it's officially not called 8. They're trying to get away from the numbers convention.
That makes sense.
But the numbers are in the village.
The numbers are in the village.
Well, because I think they're like hat tipping to longtime fans while also being like, the 8 is probably off-putting to like a larger audience.
Yeah, and that game is totally fine to play by itself. Like you
could never have played a Resident Evil game and RE8 probably more than any. Like
7 probably. 7
would have been tough.
With Ethan was important.
There's a 2-minute video, Rob, at the top of this thing that made me bond with Ethan more than anything in Resident Evil 7. So it's like, yeah, he did. He went through a lot. You know what? Seeing it all laid out like that.
Yeah, I've also enjoyed the people breaking down the just egregious lack of precaution that this family is taking with this new child they have in their home. They are not supposed. The baby crib that they have is very much. I guess if you're doing this in the 1960s, before we've had a lot of research about how babies are supposed to sleep without dying
is that crib
randomly.
Bad? Tell me what's wrong with that crib.
Oh, you're not supposed to have bumpers on the side of that crib. Like the kids can suffocate on that. You are not supposed to put them So in cribs, historically, you might have grown up this way. I forget what the cutoff was. I had it when I was a baby, I think. But there would be almost like cushions on the side of the crib. So as but those things are
those are bad.
At some point, it killed enough kids that it was this isn't whatever it's doing to help comfort for children. It's killing enough of them that we should just not do that. And so you're not supposed to have bumpers. That's a huge, one of the first things that pediatricians tell you is no, they don't sell them. Don't do custom ones. You don't put, you don't put pillows in there. There's a pillow in there, I believe. You don't put a blanket in there. You don't put any of that stuff into a crib until kids are really capable of understanding what they're putting on themselves. It's all trying to account for. There was a TikTok that I was cracking. They open up a window right next to the crib. The baby can't crawl out of that window, but you never know. Maybe that's the night the baby puts it together. It's all with babies before you're all accounting for just ridiculous edge cases. Is that going to happen to your kid? No,
probably not.
Who wants to be the statistic? And so for kids especially under age 1, is just all accounting for.
I don't think I can handle this.
You can. It's not as hard as it seems.
This doesn't happen in the game. In the game, nothing. It's fine, Rob. It's fine.
Yeah, the kid does not.
Fine.
I don't know what happens. Bad things probably happen to this child, but it has nothing to do with the Winters family.
The kid is not.
Yeah, don't let. Yeah,
I actually think presuming it's a child. I've not gotten any further than what I said. I'm only speculating on the 7 hours that I played. Presuming it's even a child, I think it's maybe going beyond. Lord. Yeah. Who knows? I generally know because I got sick right after the podcast we recorded last week talking about Resident Evil 8. So I haven't gotten any further than.
I'm so early. I don't have anything. I'm sure you covered all of the basic stuff in that thing, which is like, this is a goofier game in so many ways that
it's curious with you because you're not someone that cares all that much about horror as a genre, but you really liked RE2.
I really liked the RE2 remake. I liked 7, but 7 was too scary for me.
And this one
alone.
And RE8
because it hit personal. I can watch any kind of creature feature or any sort of slasher flick or any sort of more serious cinema thing. And I don't only mean
Hereditary.
Like A24. I don't even mean I mean that too, but I even mean things
Suspiria,
Mandy.
Right, totally. So, yeah, totally. Or Mandy, or like home invasion thrillers. I can
Purge.
deal with,
Purge.
right? Yeah, like the Purge.
Yeah, Purge is baby stuff compared to
the
home
invasion
stuff. Genre.
This
goes.
You're right. Why
I say
am I
this
not
as
thinking
someone
of
who
when we talk about
watched Black Christmas a few weeks ago.
Sure,
being like, oh man, I'll bet these sorority girls are gonna fuck up this serial killer. And it turns out I was thinking of the remake that was done later,
I see.
and not the original, which is, hey, do you want to see some people brutally killed?
In their home?
But the one thing, the one type of these things that has always fucked with me is like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which still has creature design in it.
Yeah.
But like that style of you were just driving through rural America and stumble your way into a fucked up family who like wants to torture you. That one, not too far from me. Like, not
and that's
what
RE7 is just
that's
like
that game.
REX
And it
cross Texas.
It excels at it, and I love watching other people play. And I've played a bunch of it. I got through like the halfway point of that game. Like I was,
you made it outside of the house. I made
it through the B house. I made it through the old house also, which has like the second big boss. I was probably very close to that game just becoming there's an underground. Like,
you would hit the part
facility.
that it turns into. Yeah, it's not as good. RE.
Right.
Playing RE8, I definitely was curious. I thought that you might be able to get into it, if only for the fact that I know, we've touched on this a number of times with the remake that the
Rooms
RE2
turn blue.
one. Rooms turn blue. Rooms turn blue. And this game has a specific new addition to the room turns blue that can drive you fucking batty. Because there are these shiny little objects.
Oh yeah.
So for people who haven't played
like an
this
RE4
game,
thing that's back.
Yeah. So
the medallions?
No.
Okay.
In Resident Evil 2 specifically, and the other games, Resident Evil games have had this where like, it is red if there are objects still in there, and then it is blue if you've explored everything there is there. But RE2's, the remake, was so specific in identifying things on the map that it became, it was enjoyable to find all those things. And it wasn't a huge hurdle. It didn't feel like you were doing a trophy hunting thing where it was like, I'm gonna have to go look up a walkthrough to do all this. It was it actually was satisfying to see that flip, move on to the next room. And RE8, despite being a little more open, still has that, but there are sequences where specific rooms where you have looked at every drawer. There's not a locked drawer that I got to come back with a lockpick. Like, that's not something obvious. Like, I've opened up all the vases. It's like, no, I need to just slowly pan the camera at every possible angle to see the little shiny thing in the corner glittering up near like a chandelier next to another light source. Shoot it with one bullet. Have that drop.
It's a crystal fragment.
Yeah, I'm feeling guilty here because I think I might have cut Galt's graph on that from the review because I was like, this seems specific and it really breaks the flow. But there's an entire graph of like, look, this game does this thing and it seems to break the rules of what you expect and what the game is telling you, and it's really frustrating. So I'm just going to tell you about the shiny thing. And I was like, people don't need to know about the shiny thing in this review. Maybe they did.
If anyone that's played one of these games recently will kind of know what they're in for. This one is just a more specific sort of, it can drive you up a wall. But I enjoyed it. I like that part of it.
Now, yeah, I still really enjoy finding those. So far, I've not missed one. So I have not had that thing of like, and it's never been the thing I've maybe it's been the last thing in a room, but it's never been the thing where I'm like, what the fuck am I missing in this room? There have been moments when I've done that. Where I'm like, why won't this room turn blue? What is in here that I don't see? And it's normally it's like it is a drawer I missed somewhere, or a puzzle I haven't figured out.
Look for a bird cage.
Ooh, bird cage.
Look for a bird. There was only one room there's a point where you have to leave the castle. And it's just you're leaving that area behind. You can't go back there. It's a cutoff. And I could not find the one thing. The game was not out yet, so there was no walkthrough to look up.
Look at the bird cage.
But it's no, I got the bird cages, and so what occurred to me was that there are these like little bird cages that are like kind of hidden. You shoot them, something's hidden inside, and I found one and got up off of my seat. It was like, yes, this is it. Let's turn blue. Let's turn blue.
But like that, it just feels so good to get that thing.
I know it really is, and it drops. I grabbed it was like $1,000 or whatever the equivalent currency is in that game, and then and it's like I'm playing a game show, and let's go to the map, and like click. Still red. Like throw my controller in the air. So mad.
Incredible.
And I'm sure it is a shiny bit that I combed. I looked and I could not find it. Yeah. And at a certain point, that only gets you like
fine. It's fine. But it's not any money. Like that's the thing is like
but it's
the
still
big
fun.
Money objects in this game are so big money that I guess maybe one of them could be if they put one of those things behind a shiny thing, I'd be pissed. Because like so there's a merchant in this game. Sidebar, very fat phobic design.
Yeah, we did that.
Gross.
We did that last week. Yeah,
don't need to dig into that. Seems like a nice guy, but boy, woof. Did you talk about how the way to make the most money is to find the things that are combinable? That sometimes you'll find a gem, and on top of saying valuable, it'll say combinable. And it's like combining a key and a key or whatever in Resident Evil. I mean, it's literally the one that I found so far is, you find that ring very early on and you have to take the agate out of it and that becomes a key you can put into something.
Yes.
You then find the same thing but reversed hidden in a secret room that has a very stupid puzzle. Did you do the puzzle with the 2 braziers and the pipe bomb? In the basement of the castle.
Yes.
I could not get those things to touch each other.
I could either.
I ended up using my gun and it worked. I shot them at each other and I was like, all right, bullet solve everything.
I was literally so there's a sequence, and this doesn't spoil it because the actual doing is the puzzle, but like you have to
very obvious.
Swing, these braziers that you're trying to get fire to connect with fire, but it like the physics are so wonky and your character is very Ethan Winters is extremely heavy. He moves slow. Like he this game doesn't have tank controls, but he moves at the speed of a tank. And you have this sequence in which you're trying to line up these fires. And I genuinely thought I was doing something wrong. I like step back and be like, I'm missing something. Yeah. And then I would look at it and go, I'm not.
You're not missing shit.
So then I just
put on one of those things it's like if you imagine a swing where you pulled it back or you pushed it back and then let it go, and then it didn't have any of the momentum it should.
And you don't have enough, your character doesn't move fast enough for you to run around, catch it, and then like push it to get the further momentum. I just put on a podcast. It was just running back and forth at random, figuring this is just as good a way to do this than to do it intentionally. And eventually it connected. And
what I ended up doing was standing behind one of them, shooting the back one so it went forward and then came back, and then shooting the near one so it went fast.
Maybe that's what you're supposed to do.
Like maybe, but it was stupid. Anyway, you do a puzzle, you end up getting the ring, and then you put the agate in the ring. Like as if you're doing it, as if you're like, oh, put this key back in the key holder, basically. And that thing ended up being worth like $12,000 or something. And I love that. I like that aspect of like, again, like it is just nice. It scratches the brain to find valuables in a haunted castle. Like it simply does. So that stuff is all good. And then going back to this thing of like the tone of the game, which I'm sure y'all hit already, is just so bonkers. It feels like a very gory version of what's the Disney haunted house attraction called again? Haunted Mansion.
Haunted Mansion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where like very distinctive character designs. Like here are the 4 fucking lords of this manor, 5 lords of this estate. All of them are fucked up in distinct ways. Each of them are gonna have a wing of this place. I know that it's all gonna be different designs, and I'm gonna deal with them all in different ways. And along the way, Ethan Winters is gonna get fucked up beyond repair. Except wait a second, he has the instant repair juice on him. There are moments in this game where I shout and laugh as hard as I've ever. There's a moment, I'm not going to say what the moment is, but there's a moment in the castle, which is the first area. It's not the first area because there's just a whole long intro in the village. But the first like open area where you're doing real exploration. That is the funniest shit I've ever seen in a video game.
And the game knows it. Like,
of course the game knows it.
The game is almost rubbing it in your face like, look at this shit that doesn't make sense. Isn't this fun for us to do?
And I feel like some of that was in RE7. Because he got fucked up in that game too, and did do some wild shit.
It's sort of the Baker family, like would regularly get mauled and mutilated, and they would be okay.
What I remember of Mia in that first game is that she stabbed me a bunch, and I shot her a bunch, and we probably both just drank enough of that chem juice, that heal goop to get through it. No big deal. I also just want to say, here's the thing: the premise of Resident Evil Village is you have married and started a family with Mia, who is your wife, who you went and rescued from Louisiana, and the Baker family. I think it's very noble to have saved that person. I think it is good to be there during this period of recovery and treatment. I don't think I would have started a family with someone who I went through that with. I don't think I would have had a baby with someone who stabbed me 80 times.
And they have not dealt with
the
trauma.
No.
This game opens with a giant open wound that's like, hey, we don't talk about that time in Louisiana, which makes it sound like it was a bad weekend where someone had a little too much to drink and you got in a really bad fight and it ruined the whole weekend, and like, what a shame.
I mean, there were really bad fights. They involved knives in my stomach. Like, it's bad.
Remember when that family mutated to the size of a house, and then like special forces had to come save us?
We don't talk about that time, Patrick.
Well, then this relationship isn't going to happen because we need to talk about that time. Or else, because like
sometimes a baby is a dog, and you just got to bring it into the family to make things a whole lot worse because you haven't actually identified what was
the
wrong
actual
before.
Situation. Yeah, the actual problem. Anyway, I'm enjoying this game. I like the crew of weird people. I think that the like house looks good. There's some like screen door effects on some of the textures, and then other stuff looks better than anything I've ever seen in my life. And I like don't understand I don't understand why this game can sometimes look incredible and sometimes just look absolutely like disappointing.
I feel like I noticed that screen door thing a lot more just in games broadly now, and I'm wondering if there's like some sort of like filtering or like is it a film graining thing? But there's so many games now.
I turn that film grain off in this.
But it's like there's so many games where like there's parts of it where I'm like something about this seems like crushed and compressed in a way that like doesn't fit.
The place where I know I've seen it not intentionally, but where I know I can have control over it, tends to be in games that do like upsampling and downsampling, where, I want to get a resolution that I want to run this at 4K, but I can't really run this at 4K, so I'm going to downsample it. Or I can run this at 4K, but I'm only running it at 1080p, so let me upsample. Is that what that's called? Where like, or the other thing is, is it DLSS? What's the AI focused thing that like lets you.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's one of those features in a game. I want to say even it was going back to when I was like playing Cyberpunk still. I was able to like, this is reducing that screen door effect for me in exchange for some performance hits, basically. But RE's options, nothing I do gets rid of that effect on like paintings in the world. But also some of the paintings look incredible. So like, I don't know if it's an asset level thing. I don't know if it's, hey, there's something in this room that is causing a serious dip and it's trying to like fix that. There's a room in that castle that is truly haunted. It's just like an attic armory where my frame rate goes to shit for no reason. Like it's just a wooden room, but for some reason that one place.
Are you playing on PC?
I'm playing on PC. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
I've heard the PC version has really weird hiccup and
that makes perfect sense.
So I think that might just be related to that version.
Yeah, that makes sense. Anyway, I'm really enjoying it. I don't have anything, meaningful to say at this point because I'm still.
I like that Resident Evil is getting broadly redefined into not having a definition. That's like a piece that I want to write and talk to some folks who followed this series for a long time. Is that I think that's part of what's, even though I wanted RE8 to be like a direct follow up to RE7 and be like double down on like the nightmare.
That creepy. Yeah. Like I think that would have been good. Like even if that wouldn't have been as much of a scratch the itches in my brain thing, I still think that would have been a worthy. But
I understand how they arrive at where they. But there's something so interesting that this game still feels quintessentially Resident Evil, while at the same time, if you were to sit down and like write down like, well, explain to me what that means, and I don't know that you can. But that's like, I don't know. That's really exciting for whatever this, the franchise becomes or the directions it goes in. And I still like that it has its multiple tracks, that it sounds like this is going to be a trilogy of games. There will be another first person Resident Evil that comes out in a couple of years.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4 is like more ambitious.
That
remake
is almost
happening.
Certainly happening. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just funny to me that like the last game in the series, or RE7, not the last game, that was RE3 remake, I guess, technically. But RE7 was like, oh, this touches some real anxieties around families and like the ways in which the rural can feel particularly scary to me and blah 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 blah. And this is like if Mr. Sinister from the X-Men showed up, I'd be like, yeah, okay, yeah, that motherfucker had to be involved in this. I should have known that motherfucker was involved in this.
The greatest crossover of all time, Resident Evil.
Can you imagine him just some X-Men? Random? Sure, that'd be incredible.
Give me the mod.
Yeah. Doesn't Capcom has those licenses, right? Fucking.
They still. I don't know.
They did. That last fighting game didn't go over well. I don't know that Marvel's going to be. There's a reason people are rooting for NetherRealm to make the next one.
Right.
Oh, that'd be fun. That'd be a fun. God, NetherRealm should make a Marvel versus DC game. People would lose it. That would be the biggest shit.
Well, you have. I don't know if it's actually going to happen, but you do have like Ed Boon out here, doing tweets as these rumors started. Because there was a game before they do like this. This really good feature they do where they ask rapid fire questions to developers. And at one point they asked Ed Boon, "Have you ever taken a meeting with Marvel?" And he goes, has a long pause. He goes, "Yes, we have." And it was a couple of years ago, I guess. And then James Gunn, who's doing Suicide Squad, kind of like, made a bunch of Marvel movies. And then Ed Boon was out there saying, it's like, congratulations to James Gunn. It's really cool how he's able to make Marvel and DC things at the same time. And so like, now granted, it's like really hard to look into that because Ed Boon is notoriously really good at trolling online and absolutely and fucking with his fans. So like, it's just as likely they do an Injustice 3 that has nothing to do with Marvel. Because Injustice 2 was really, really fun. Like I would be just as happy with them doing another DC fighting game. Have you seen that clip going around where people put together in Injustice 2 when the fighters clash, like, and this happens in the Mortal Kombat games as well, like they have a little quip and everyone just compiled like Batman going up against like everybody in the DC universe, and he's always just saying, it's like Cheetah being like, I'm gonna, you're such a fierce opponent, and he always says, I'm Batman, and it's just a complete compilation of him doing that. It's so fucking fun. I have to find it.
Please find
it. Extremely good.
God, can you imagine that trailer where like people think it's just Injustice 3 because like Superman is there or whatever, or Darkseid is there, and then out of nowhere you hear like, I don't know, you hear a Thanos voice or you hear a Iron Man quip, or I don't know who's the most distinctive. Who is the person who like shows up? Well, is it Wolverine like showing up and doing a Berserker Barrage? Like, you can't do a Berserker Barrage because that's literally a Capcom thing, right? So can't use those maneuvers. Is it like the snicked sound effect of and Wolverine's claws coming into view? Is it Spider-Man?
I was gonna say either that or Spider-Man, like thwip.
The thwip of like, a web comes from off screen. That'd be sick.
Spider-Man's weird though. I don't know. Spider-man's like a Sony thing. I don't know that you can even guarantee that Spider-Man would show up. And
also, I don't know. Tonally, that's what I'd want from the NetherRealms. Like, he's such a, I don't know. I guess they have goofball characters in those games. So
he was in the last Marvel vs. Capcom, right?
No, but I'm saying, Yeah, of course, but that's like totally not a NetherRealm game. NetherRealm games are so like, you know, gruesome often, even Injustice. Anyway,
so it'll be Carnage, is what you're saying.
It'll be Carnage. Carnage fits the mold of a NetherRealm game extremely well. Yeah. What if they just partner with Venom 2?
That'd be Carnage.
Yeah.
There you go.
Is that Woody
Andy
Harrelson
Serkis directed?
Carnage?
Really?
Who is
Woody? Huh?
I'm pretty sure. Isn't that right? Is that who plays Carnage?
No, yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah,
Huh.
Getting those checks, Woody. All right. Anything else? Anyone else want to? What are you playing, Patrick?
Shout
out.
I have been playing. I weirdly I checked out Roblox this week.
Yeah, I saw you on Twitter posting about Roblox.
Yeah, that kid has occasionally said like I would like to check out Roblox. I'm like, and I will ask, what do you mean by that? And what she means is I would like to watch a video of a child playing Roblox. It's like, okay, that's fine. Roblox, for people who don't know, you probably heard it vaguely. It is a platform as opposed to a game, like a set of tools, game creation tools that are accessible to, you know, even just the most basic creators, young people. It is just had a recent IPO that was huge. I guess they had a bad recent quarterly report, but nonetheless, it's a really big company. And I recently interviewed the developers. I don't know if the story is up. I think it was supposed to go up this morning. Checking now to see if the piece went live. Yes.
How these developers hope to build a 100-person game studio inside Roblox.
Yes. So Adopt Me is this game inside. So when you like open Roblox, it's just access to like a bunch of different games. And when you jump into any one of these games, I mean, it quite literally is a fever dream. Like the aesthetic is like a Second Life adjacent. It is chaos. Like the Comic Sans font is everywhere. It is truly jarring. Like it is a world in which traditional UI aesthetics design have been not rejected, but it has its own like design language.
It grew out of
language.
A different heritage of players who are all young kids, or who were all young kids 6 years ago.
Roblox is 10 years old. And it launched in, I think it originally launched in 2006, so even longer than that. It's, growing into maturity and being a creation
6 years
tool.
ago, like when I first got to Giant Bomb, the Roblox people reached out, were like, we're secretly the biggest thing for this demographic in the world, and no one knows about this. Do you want to do a story about us? I like really considered it, but I was like, Giant Bomb's audience is just going to reject this. Like, this is just not, like, they're not interested in this style of reporting. And to this day, I'm like, I should have fucking written that story, because Roblox was 100% like an untalked about, like,
completely
juggernaut.
ignored. So the reason like this came into my orbit because on one hand, I'm waiting on some answers from an interview I'm doing with Terry Cavanaugh, the designer of PvPvE, and Dicey Dungeons. Someone who is like really well known, respected in like the indie game space, and he spent the last month or so building a game. It's like Giant Man Auto, I think is the name of it. I might have that off a little bit. Building a game in Roblox, and so he's been doing these tweet threads explaining his time with the tool set, and just like basically like, oh, this audience is not necessarily too big to ignore, although it probably is too big to ignore, but just this is interesting and curious. I'm going to spend some time there. So I saw that combined with being reached out to by these folks, Adopt Me, who for the last couple of years have had, if not one of the biggest games on Roblox. It is a game that started as sort of like a family simulator where it's like, oh, you're a mom and a dad and you have a baby and you like feed it and it grows and gets bigger. And then it shot through the roof in terms of popularity when they added pets. And so when you jump into Adopt Me, you get an egg, and this egg follows you around, and this egg says, I'm thirsty. And I'm like, all right, egg, let's go to the coffee shop. And so we go to the coffee shop, I get some coffee, I feed it to this egg. This egg is very happy to have this coffee. It fills up a little meter, and then the egg says, I'm tired. I'm like, all right, egg, let's go back home. And I The egg will follow me, or I could pick it up and I can cradle it and we head back to the house. And this meter fills up and then crack, and then out comes an animal. In this case, like a basic, like brown puppy. And so this game had very recently nearly 2 million concurrents, which that would put it at the top of the Steam charts. It has 60 million people that play it at least once, on a monthly basis. Like it would be like just an enormous story in like sort of traditional quote games if we were had it in that space where Roblox wasn't just sort of like ignored as a young thing for kids, even though it's really no different than a Minecraft. I do think a lot of it has to do with the aesthetic. I think it is ugly to look at. It is really it is difficult to penetrate. You jump in, there's a chat room in the corner that is not run by the individual games, and so that is run by Roblox. So there is just a universal chat that is proximity based, or like sort of like individually server based, like you've been spawned into these X number of players, which is of course not all that dissimilar to anyone that's played an MMO, but it is not run by these games. And so I dropped in to this Roblox instance in which there were a group of, I can only presume to be young people. I guess I shouldn't assume. Maybe the Adopt Me community has older folks playing now, but there was a dispute occurring over this. One person said, this person's they're a scam artist. You don't want to trade with them. Do not go anywhere near them. And then this person was saying, no, I'm like reformed. And like another person was saying like they could vouch for them. And this is all occurring while I'm feeding my egg coffee. And so it's a very harsh environment to go in because it's deeply uninterested in any sort of onboarding. The interface, like it looks like you're, like, if you were to be looking at rough drafts of a game developer figuring out what will be our final UI, you would look at this and go, no. Like, no, this is not what you put in the game. And so I think in that regard, it has a bunch of barriers for folks that play quote unquote traditional games where they would look at it and, it is not purposely off-putting. It's more that it's just its own universe. And if you're not familiar with its language and practices and how it displays itself, it can seem off-putting because it's not particularly interested in like bridging that outreach because they have hundreds of millions of people. Why should they give a shit if you're not interested? So this is all to say, this led me to speaking to this studio because Adopt Me has now been so popular for so long that they went from 2 people who met in Roblox that decided to make a game in Roblox. That game went on to make enough money to support a 40-person studio continuing to develop Adopt Me. And what's important there is that the financial split on Roblox is stacked against developers. Right. So whereas on Steam or Xbox or Nintendo, it's traditionally a 70-30 split, in which the platform holder is taking 30, the developer is taking 70. Just flip that in Roblox. Like where you are taking, the numbers aren't exactly the same, but essentially it's flipped. And they were still making enough to fund a 40-person team. And they wanted to sort of formalize the process where they wanted to not just have a handful of employees and a bunch of contractors. They wanted to provide healthcare. They wanted to provide like 401ks. They wanted to be an actual studio that builds games in Roblox, provides career growth and sort of employee growth. And so they've rebranded themselves as Uplift Games. And it's like that, the story I wrote was kind of walking through that process and how they're trying to create stability in like a really unstable environment, because also Roblox is very trend based. Like a lot of what happens in Roblox is you have kids or young people making a game. It gets really popular really fast. It's really tied into like the YouTube economy. So like a game gets popular in Roblox, a bunch of YouTube creators make videos around it. Then all of a sudden it gets really popular. And what do those people want? Well, they want more content. Well, this handful of young people are not prepared to be an established developer to like avoid burnout, to be able to create things at a steady pace. And so these games ultimately sort of end up burning out because the people that make them burn out and just do not have a process in place. And so a lot of like Uplift is trying to develop processes, like creating actual tools. Like Roblox doesn't have a robust development community that is like building tools and art assets for people to work with. And so a lot of Uplift is doing is like building those processes themselves so they can like have a pipeline that is making new pets that go into the game.
But they want to stay in Roblox.
They want to stay in Roblox. And they have an interesting split where they have to have an onboarding process where they want to hire people that come from, I only use traditional just as like a shorthand, but like, lots of games that we normally talk about, like building games in Roblox is a difference. So it's like
it's different than using Unity. It's different than using, sure.
And so, they'll hire people outside of that space, and it's like they have to spend, weeks, months, like getting like, this is how you build a thing in Roblox. Also, it's legitimate. It is not a downgrade to go build a game in Roblox. So that's like a lot of what they're going for is trying to kind of, I guess professionalize would be like is the term I use in the story, is sort of like the professionalization of being a Roblox developer, that it's something you can do that is not just a flash in the pan. It is something that is sustainable. It can be, brought up into the studio's ethos as being inclusive, where they talk about having like trans people of color, not just on their staff, but in managerial positions and like senior leadership positions. The interesting aside was, I think the traditional feeling would be like, oh, tens of millions of kids anonymous must be like a shitty place to hang out. And, at least the takeaway from, this one studio was like, actually, like the younger generation is way more inclusive. Like they're shitty on their own terms, right? Like they have their problems, but in terms of like being queer or trans, like that's not the issue. Like that's not the problems. They deal with kids sharing passwords and then stealing one another's like pets and secretly dumping that in the middle of the night. Not actually like being called, a bunch of bigoted terms. And so, the fact that it's actually easier for them to build a studio with that inclusivity in mind, because the audience they don't even have a tension with their audience necessarily in that regard. So it's just interesting. Like it's one of those things that I want to understand more, because I feel like it's this inevitable thing that's going to collide with my kid. And so that and I do believe that it's really underserved in terms of critical reporting. Actually Motherboard has done some good stuff about that in terms of like the child monitoring and like the abuse that happens there. But I do think it's just not talked about in like our circles at all. And so this was like the kind of two-pronged approach to kind of like start wrapping my head around like what is happening in this space more, because I'd like to understand it before my kid gets there. Like what is my kid jumping into? Like you can only know so much. At a certain point you have to kind of like let the ripcord go and hope that your kid has been imparted the lessons to learn those things on their own merits. But it's interesting. Like I don't know that I enjoyed my time in Adopt Me. Like frankly, like it is so harsh, but it's interesting.
Game inside of Roblox, right? Rod, did you have something? Was that a hand or were you?
No, I think I was thinking about like one of the things that I feel like I've picked up is that often there's a lot of anxiety about being totally platform dependent in game space. And obviously, by definition, you are existing within this greater program. And I'm curious whether that was a source of tension or anxiety for the studio, where like if they start making a go of it, are they are they excessively dependent on the whims of like however Roblox develops in the future? But two, does it easily lend itself to a situation, but like we saw with Facebook games back in the day, where like Facebook's interest was making sure that Facebook won, not necessarily that anybody developing for Facebook was going to win. And so we sort of saw that market crash a bit as more people entered it. And I'm curious if they're sort of thinking along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, it was hard not to have in the back of my mind, and talking to them was like, oh, is this just establish a studio within Roblox, make enough money to make things outside of Roblox, and Roblox just becomes like a steady source of income, but then allows you to, use external tools and platforms to build off of. And they seem to really push back on that, and the notion that like, no, actually Roblox itself is a sustainable enough community and platform. And they were, what was it? I had to cut it from the piece, but I don't have the actual technical term in front of me, but it was interesting because they mentioned there was something that got added to Roblox just recently as a developer tool in terms of how you handle like the meshes of models. That was added to like any engine in like 2006, and it's just got added to Roblox because it's just not necessarily in the order of hierarchy of like what even the users or developers want. And so it's like it's just like it's a different orienting of like what is the order of events that needs to occur in order for us to accomplish our goal, or what the goals are of the audience. And so, yeah, I mean, they've been pretty open about saying they have some issues. There is inherent tension in having Roblox have so much control over the platform. But I think my takeaway from having talked with them is that the sheer audience size is such that it seems like it makes up for the fact that you don't have that direct control, or the tensions are different than what you would have with a Steam or a Nintendo or a Microsoft. It just kind of comes with its own set of complications that are different. And the financial one is one that I wonder the maturity of Adopt Me or a studio in there that can wield actual power and influence, which is they can say, we are an established brand.
Right.
When we launch a new thing, this thing we can guarantee is going to be popular in your ecosystem. Is it like, would it be like completely shocking if all of a sudden Roblox started like, carving out like a development
different cuts or
prioritizing
development of new, tools.
Right. Hey, your team needs this. This is
right.
suddenly going to be and it's like, it makes more sense that would happen if you have established developers that can make established requests, and that, well, you're going to be around a year from now. Yeah. So we're going to establish, we're going to invest the tools to build that into the ecosystem, because you're not just someone who's like throwing things at a wall and then you're going to get bored of this and then move on. This is a business. There are two things that come to mind here for me that are interesting. One is just a friend of mine, Everest Pipkin, who's a game designer, and a bunch of other things. On top of being a game designer, programmer, I think rightly called a theorist, is doing some work in Roblox right now. Friends of the table fans will know Everest from The Ground Itself, which we just ran. People on the internet will know Everest from, here is the article you can send to people when they say, but the environmental issues with crypto art will be solved soon, right? That went along. I interviewed Everest for an article.
For another thing, they're great. The stuff that Everest is making in Roblox looks like nothing else you've ever seen in Roblox. I've had to link this Games Radar story as a cached thing because Games Radar seems to be down right now. But if you just go in there and scroll down a little bit and look at Roblox Dream Diary and these screenshots, you'll be like, this is not Roblox. This is not what Roblox is supposed to look like. And so I think it's interesting that like also this person who does truly independent indie shit is like in this space being like, well, these tools are kind of interesting. These tools are kind of fascinating to play around with. So that's one of the things that I think is interesting. I'm curious if we see more of that, if like, because the audience, especially if you think about the Roblox audiences, my presumed what their age is right on the edge of like, yeah, they would be interested also in playing some stuff that does weird independent game.
Well, they're also growing up, right? So
that's
like
exactly
one of the things
that
the studio Uplift was discussing was that like they have a split in the studio where like it's almost like not necessarily 50-50, but they have a split between folks who are outsiders making games in the sort of the traditional ecosystem, and they have people who grew up in Roblox, in which their entire framework of like, what are games? How do you make games? How do you build games? It's not entirely through Roblox, but that is like one of the primary prisms in which they even think about game creation, and like a sort of an engine tool set. And so, I think you end up in those situations where those people are growing up and want to see or potentially see different things within the ecosystem they're already familiar with. It's like, what do you?
That's already there. So
what do you do with those tools, and how can you stretch them?
Yeah, you can find that by looking for stunning Roblox game proves it can create more than Blocky lads, and that's, you'd probably have to click on a cached version of that unless Games Radar comes back up, which I hope it does. I don't know what happened.
But I do like part of the issue, and I think this is something that the studio talked about, in which they discuss sort of like the way that we delegitimize the legitimacy of Roblox as it already exists, is actually inherent into a headline like this, which is like, stunning Roblox improves it can create more than Blocky lads. It's like, well, but what it's meant to do is to build. Well, no, but also what it's meant to do is to build Blocky lads, and like it is. The question becomes like, well, yeah, you may not be interested in Roblox and the aesthetic that it has created, and thus become its design language. Like, but who are you to say, well, thus then Roblox needs to change because I like what these twee indie games look like on Steam, right? And so I'm not saying that's what Everest is doing. I'm like glad that there are people.
This is like the thing I just sent is like screenshots from the latest bit, but they've been making stuff in Roblox now since like November. And this thing there are other versions, there are other parts of the Dream Diary that do look just blocky. Yeah. And
I just hesitate on like that framework, because I think it's very easy to fall into that trap of,
that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, what I want Roblox to do is to be this big popular thing where all these young people play the games that I like, so that they'll also appreciate
the thing that's interesting about it to me is just the tools are already capable of doing this.
Right.
And that's what makes it fascinating, is that like, this is not the thing that Everest has shown is like, oh, hey, this tool set that has been developed to make this style of thing, and in which this style of thing is vastly popular, also can be deployed in this other way. But not a lot of people are doing it in a popular sense because that isn't what the culture of it has been.
Right.
Rob, do you have something else here? Because I have one other thing with Roblox that I want to note that is interesting about our conversation.
No, I was just saying, I think this highlights to a degree, though, that I think in media broadly, there is one of the things that media struggles to do, and I see it most in games journalism because that's what we look at a lot. We cover news, and news implies a degree of novelty. And if something is just big and successful, in some ways it becomes an iceberg, where it's like we know it's out there, but we don't care because nothing new happened. It just is, and it's not worth talking about. And I understand how we get there, but I think it does lead to a lot of issues where there are entire realms of experience out there that we are just completely oblivious to because they're status quo. And we lose sight of the fact that these things are so incredibly massive and influential because we are constantly on the lookout for the new thing. And we're incapable of kind of looking at, hey, this thing has persisted in a lot of ways and endured and grown. But because it hasn't had a big splashy moment, we just sort of latch onto these things of hey, Roblox, not what you thought. And that's not necessarily the important part there.
The thing is, the other half of that diagram is audiences don't care. The Roblox audience is served by Roblox.
Yep.
Unless the Destiny audience is served by Destiny and Paul Passy, and that's it. And the Destiny forums, right? Ongoing things. One of the things that you find is that you cannot parachute in and even do a comprehensive feature about a very successful thing, or it's hard to do that and then see a result that seems like it moves the needle given the amount of effort that goes into, hey, did you know here are a bunch of interesting stories about what's happening inside of this community that no one talks about because it's so successful that it's under our or the other thing about Roblox is it's not just that it's so successful, it's also delegitimized because it's a children's, its primary demographic is young people, and not young people in the way we talk about young people,
right.
Children, right?
Yes.
And I think that delegitimization also happens on other vectors, and often you see similar things happen. You look at the sports games, for instance, are delegitimized partially because of who the player base is, but also because sports itself is kind of maligned inside of certain circles of games coverage. And so that stuff, those stories just don't get told. The story about what's happening in the FIFA community, I bet there are interesting stories there.
If it doesn't have to intersect with loot crates and Team Ultimate, that's the only intersection that you largely see.
Totally. But we're not and the reason for that partly is, yes, we don't have there is a bias towards novelty, but I also think that bias is shared by the readership as often as by
no, that's definitely true.
The journalists, which is a problem. And
I don't necessarily
at it.
Right. I don't necessarily expect this Roblox piece, or even if I write one about Terry Kavanaugh's game, either of those to do well. But part of that is there probably is a story that will do well that I can convey to the audience and bridge that gap. But I also need to spend the time writing pieces no one is going to read that are still interesting and worthwhile to build the foundational knowledge to then tell the stories that you can hey, this is why you should be paying attention, and this is why it's worth putting your eye in that direction.
Totally. The second angle here that is so fascinating to me is we just talked a lot about what was it? The Adopt Me? Is that what it was called?
Yes.
You called it a game?
Yeah, it's
Apple's Tristan Kosminka says that it is not a game. That is an experience, something like the experiences that you look at in Minecraft. Roblox has recently been in the news because of the ongoing Apple Epic legal case, which has. Did y'all talk about that on Monday?
No, not really.
Whatever that was. The stuff that's come out of that has been fascinating. And
especially the discussion of what is a game.
Includes what is a game, in which is caught up largely because so much of that, I guess, correct me if I'm wrong, so much of this case is caught up in the idea that Epic would like people to be able to buy things in Fortnite. Apple doesn't want to put anything on the store that is itself a store, right? Mm-hmm. Or that is itself selling games because they say
specifically related to the medium of video games. They are fine with you accessing a library of movies through Netflix. They are fine with you accessing a library of music through Spotify.
If you have the Kindle app, you are not buying books on Kindle through your app. You're buying them through the browser, because otherwise Apple would get a cut from Amazon.
But you could, right? Like Netflix used to sell subscriptions through Apple.
Did they?
And then,
okay.
And then they chose to remove it because they didn't want to give the cut.
Because they don't want to get that is the decision that.
But I'm just saying, they are literally they could if they wanted to.
Right.
With video games specifically, you cannot do that. They wanted Microsoft to make a Halo app for playing Halo through the cloud. They wanted them to make, you couldn't
even
though just do Game
that's a
Pass.
great example of the thing that's weird about this, because one of their defenses is, hey, it's a security thing. If you're able to run if you're able to sell software, we can't be sure that the software is safe. Or good, right? Or quality. And it's like, let me tell you about some poor quality software. Check the App Store. But the thing about that's so weird about like, the Microsoft Cloud stuff is like, that stuff is just running on a cloud. This is a streaming service effectively. Playing Halo via xCloud or whatever is not running anything dangerous on this phone. But yeah, what is a game came up in these proceedings. A lot of dancing around the idea or the claim, I guess, that like the things that happen inside of Roblox, for instance, are not games. The things that happen inside of modded Minecraft servers are not games. The package is a game, but then Adopt Me is not, which is just like
which is so funny because when I in the profile I did about Uplift, like the person I was speaking with, I might as well just get their name up here, so just because I talked to one person, is Josh Ling, who's the director of business operations. Like Josh, before working on Uplift and working on Adopt Me, worked for it was called like Hypersense or Hypixel, which is like one of the most like well-known sort of like Minecraft servers in which they host a bunch of like custom games and things like that. And like one of the things he was pointing out to was like, well, they built Hypixel originally on the Java version of Minecraft, in which they couldn't actually hack the UI or modify it. So they had to use like existing UI elements, where like an inventory section became the mod menu to pick like your game mods, because they couldn't build in a new UI element. And so you have an instance where you're going into Minecraft and then playing and paying for access to like custom game modes. And it's really just Apple doesn't want to admit that, games are games, because then that kind of crumbles. I have all sorts of problems with Epic's arguments as well. Like they're not like a truly innocent partner in this whole process. But the way Apple dances around what is and isn't a game is really funny, because Roblox is just a platform for a bunch of custom game modes. Like that's really all it is.
Totally. Anyway, just a funny observation. People should dig into that Apple Epic stuff if you've not been following it, because there's a lot there that you could unpack. Probably more than what we have time for this afternoon. Because I don't know, how deep do you want to dig into how much Epic was paying indie developers? Not very much in many cases. For the free game releases. Just some fascinating stuff. I think when this all shakes out, when it's all said and done, there will be a lot to dig through and a lot.
You really should just be following Addie Robertson,
yes,
a reporter at The Verge, at the Dextriarchy, THEDEX. TRIARCHY. They are basically doing like a play-by-play of like all of the proceedings in like a very accessible and digestible form. And if you just scroll through the last, 2 weeks of tweets, you'll just get a bunch of really incredible stuff, transcription of. And I've listened to some of the trial, not in real time, and the audio is atrocious. I cannot believe that Eddie is like getting like the quotes that they are getting out of this. So if you want to just kind of catch up in more of a raw form, I highly recommend that. Has been, I just have that Twitter feed up constantly in a tab,
because you never know when something truly wild is about to happen, right?
Yeah.
All the stuff around developer or publishers getting upset because their business dealings are being brought to light, and all of the both, honestly, both councils going to the judge and being, oh, actually, we had a partner say, Paradox wrote in and said, please don't talk about this deal. I'm begging you. The judge, extremely funny.
The judge just being like, wow, the video game industry keeps asking me to redact things is just... I think Rebecca Valentine wrote a good piece for IGN about how this exposes like the absurd secrecy of the video games industry.
Rebecca's work has been really good around this too. We should specifically shout that out.
She's done excellent stuff at IGN, contextualizing a lot of this, and she is 100% right. Like, it's just tremendously funny how secretive the video game industry is, to the degree that even the courts are like, what do you mean? Like, why do we have to keep redacting all of this? Is just it's good.
Just to like, as just a snapshot, I clicked on Addy Robertson's feed right now, and currently, judge, it'd be hard to play Pokemon Go on a console. And then a developer from Niantic, that's true, but it's always a choice. So we chose to build a different kind of Pokemon game that worked on both on consoles and mobile. I don't know, do they have something? Does Niantic have something that actually does work on consoles? Is there a Pokemon Go?
Well, doesn't Pokemon Go tie into that Pokemon game from 2 years ago?
Some other stuff. Yeah, Let's Go.
Pikachu, Let's Go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's integration there, but it's not really.
Yeah, but I do love the judge being like, I think it seems like it would be pretty hard to play Pokemon Go from a console.
Well, there was the judge also at one point was like, wait, you can't, like, well, you can do a subscription for movies, but you can't for video games? And like everyone would just be like, yes! Yeah, that seems a little weird. And it's just so funny watching just like and the judge is, in theory, not supposed to make casual observations like that, but because it seems so fucking obvious that it's
so funny. God. Yeah, great. I'm gonna shout out something else I played briefly. Hood. Something of what's the subtitle? What's the subtitle? Outlaws and Legends. I didn't have a great time with it. So Hood, Outlaws and Legends.
This is like a PvE, like a Payday sort of
Sherwood
game, right?
Forest.
It's not though.
Damn.
It should be that. It should be Payday Sherwood Forest. The premise is you and 3 other people are trying to rob a castle. Those are the people are dark, gritty versions of Robin Hood characters, right? It's Robin Hood and Lady Marian and Maid Marian,
Little John, Will Scarlet.
Will Scarlet not involved. Will Scarlet DLC maybe. We'll have to see. Friar Tuck, except Friar. Spelled, they're all spelled like this is the way they really would have spelled them. Do you know what I mean? Do you know like so like Took is instead, or Tuck is Took instead, right? Something like that. And so it's a team-based game. Everyone has a character. Characters can level up and get new passive perks and stuff. It's a stealth game in which you are trying to like avoid direct conflict, so you're like crouching in the bushes a la Assassin's Creed. It's third person. You can hit the X button on your controller to assassinate someone that you're behind, unless you're Marianne, in which case you can hit the X button to assassinate anyone from any direction at all, as long as you're still stealthy. It's a basic like stealth. Go in there, find the sheriff of Nottingham, presumably. Hit the X button to pickpocket the key from him. Go to find the vault. Go to the vault. Put the key in the vault. Assassinating people and shooting them with arrows and stuff as you do, trying to keep the alarm down. Get the treasure chest. Get to an escape point, escape with the loot by attaching it to a winch and then having 2 of your players slowly turn the winch to winch it up over a wall or up into a boat. The twist, so to speak, is there's a second team also trying to do this from the other side of the map, comprised of the same characters or the same set of characters picked from the same set of characters. And so they are trying to sneak in as quick as possible, get the loot, get to an exit, and escape while you're also trying to do that. And so the arc of a match is kind of like both sides are trying to rush into the castle walls and you're taking out guards as quickly as you can. Inevitably, every time I play, the other team sets off an alarm, and it makes me think that people are just running. They're just like, I don't care about the stealth shit. It's not worth doing the stealth shit. Let me just get inside. Then there's a stage where you're just kind of like, poking around the castle, trying to find the sheriff and get the key, or trying to find the enemy team and like snipe them. And even at this point, I think the game was kind of fun. The thing of like seeing someone being up on a balcony and looking down into like the mess hall, or I guess what do you call a medieval mess hall? What is that called? It's like not a cafeteria either. The
dining
feast.
hall?
The dining hall.
Like the Great Hall. Like, yeah,
the Great Hall. You know what the fuck I'm
yeah.
talking about. There's halls. And like seeing another Robin Hoods try to sneak past a bunch of tables and be like, nah, motherfucker, boom, got you. That part, okay, that's kind of fun. Then
when the other team sets off the alarm, is it a global alarm? Like your stealth phase is now fucked up too?
There is no phase.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that this is all blurry is part of it. Okay. Guards get more active in the regions that have been alarmed.
But you can still get the drop on them. They aren't like...
They're not
fully
invincible.
alerted.
There are some that are like, it's hard to even tell. Sometimes it feels like once they have the exclamation point over their head, you can assassinate them, but I feel like that's not always true. Regardless, you shoot your way in, you stab your way in, you do the stuff that you're doing. You get in, you get the chest, you unlock the vault. The vault door takes forever to open because it's supposed to be like a choke point in some senses. And then you have to carry this big, heavy chest to one of these extraction points. Your strong characters, Little John or Friar Tuck, can carry it quicker. And also they're your melee characters. They're the ones who like really do damage up close. And then you get into this extraction point, and like this is the part of the game that just becomes excruciating because the distance. The thing that ends up happening is someone has one of these chests, as there's only one per map, I guess, and they run into some guards. So they put the chest down to fight the guards, or, they're being escorted by the rest of the team. And then the other team comes in to try to get the chest. And then for 10, 15 minutes, it's this kind of scrum where you're just trying to move this chest 3 feet towards an exit. And it's not, I say scrum, but it's not like rugby. It's not like football. There aren't 2 end zones. Any end zone will count. It's just whoever touched the crank last. So, you'll get the thing to the fucking crank. One team will finally start like rotating the cranks to try to, gimbal it up and get it into the place and da-da-da-da-da. And then the other team will just like start throwing bodies at them to try to like stop them from extracting with the thing, and that will trade hands like 4 times, 5 times, and it's not compelling. And it's like, and then also the state is there, the sheriff and his goons show up, and you're fighting them a little bit, and it's just like a mess. It doesn't feel like a heist, and it doesn't feel like a Michael Mann heist gone wrong either. It neither feels smooth and slick, nor does it feel messy in a fun way. There are some moments where it's like, I got the drop on someone and that feels good, or I see, 2 Little Johns duking it out and I sneak up behind the enemy one and assassinate, and that's kind of fun. But like, it never coalesces into anything that feels like there's momentum or high moments or anything like that.
Does it feel like this is a thing that's like largely a function of tuning, where like if the cooldown on guys come like respawning the enemy team being able to make another run, like, because I hate that feeling of like we're just treading water here.
Let's be clear, there are long respawn timers, and you spawn far away, but the winching takes so long that
also
you're going to have to.
How many people? Do you need 2 people on that thing? So you're basically down 2 people?
You only need 1 to turn it at a given time. 2 is better, and the beefy characters do better at it. So like, which is an interesting design thing, right? Because that's like, okay, your good melee characters need to be on the winch. Your stealthy characters are not as good in a fight, though they're better at ranged, obviously. And so like that stuff, that's kind of interesting. Like, I don't think that's like bad necessarily. The thing is that like, as it's, even taking out the meta aspect, the moments of engagement just don't necessarily feel exciting. And I think that's a shame, because maybe you're right, Rob. Maybe the right tuning on how long. The thing is, like, I think people just hate being out off the map for that long. And the respawn timer already starts at 10 seconds and then it advances by a second, getting longer every death. So like by the end of one of these, it's like 15 seconds because you've died 5 or 6 times, right? And it's just like, I don't know. I'm not disappointed, because I was never extremely high on it, or anticipating it.
But I'm always looking for one of these to like.
I'm always looking for one of these.
Like,
yes.
I remember when Payday 1 came out, really digging some of those missions and like that feeling of like the spiraling chaos. But it's a really tough balance to strike where it's like, okay, things are going off book enough. I think the sweet spot for me is it has to have just enough slack in it that you can sort of feel like, okay, we're going to get this back under control and like figure this out. If it is all nonstop chaos and like it's just a twitch shooter at that point, it's not really interesting. You might as well play a better one of those.
Right. Well, and that's the thing is like, this is a bad one of these when it's go time.
Yeah.
When it's go time and it's like, you know, Robin Hood has a bow with 7 arrows and you can go to an ammo stand to get more of those, and then has it can punch or like hit with the bow, and that's just a regular melee attack, can dodge, everyone can do a little dodge, and then it has an ult that is like shoot an explosive arrow that takes a few 2 seconds long to blow up, and so it mostly distracts people, it mostly makes people go away from it more than it like hurts people. It hurts NPCs are bad about it. But yeah, it just like it feels not like the one of these I was looking for.
Yeah, it feels, from what you're describing, it feels like it's tuned to the moments where there's still missing information. But the second that everyone knows where everyone is, because the winch is in one specific place, you know which winch they're using. Well, that turn, just like the like head-to-head combat isn't that good. It's more about catching. It people happens even, but
the thing is that moment where there's not enough information is way too short.
Right.
Because right now people are rushing to the vault,
right?
Rushing to the key, then rushing to the vault because there's not enough of a cost for doing that. And because there's a really good ping system in the game, where if you look at something, you can hit left bumper to, I think it's left bumper to ping it, or hold left bumper to like do additional like, oh, go here, you know, obviously those sorts of ping commands. Very early on, people are like, oh yeah, there's an enemy ping, like there's another player over there, and so like there isn't really a long no information phase. If there was a longer low information phase, I think this game would be a lot better. And also if that back end was actually quicker, I'd rather just lose a match than have one of these like grueling back and forths. I mean, the hope is that you end up, and like, you know, the one of the matches I won was very much that thing of like, the enemy really got it up on that winch really high to get it over that wall, and then we killed them and like got it that last little bit, and that felt like securing a victory from, you know, the last possible moment with like a few threads hanging. But we shouldn't have won that. Frankly, that's a stupid way to win a match, is to like do nothing basically. And that's the other thing. There's not. It's not like God, I can't think of another game that does this off the top of my head. But sometimes there are games where you need to be playing them to get like upgrades. Like obviously Returnal's a different type of game, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like during
Warhammer
a run
they made,
Vermintide, right? Where like, oh yeah, I'm getting upgrades along the way. I'm getting more powerful like as we get deeper into this.
It's a Schluter.
Like a or like a shooter, or like really it is Cado. It's a MOBA, right? You have to be engaged in order to play that end game. Like imagine if there was a MOBA where instead of having two, and maybe this MOBA exists, instead of having two different Eternals or whatever that you're defending, Ancients, whatever they're called, there was one in the middle of the map, or just as long as one of them died, whoever got the last hit wins. Right. That would suck. And also, you don't level up.
That's how it works, but that's contingent upon.
No, it's not how it works. Both in MOBAs, both sides have their own ancient.
Sorry, you meant one, and
imagine
whoever gets the last hit.
Whoever gets the last hit, period. On whichever team gets the last hit wins. Right. And so what the fuck? We put in 90% of the damage on this thing, 99% of the damage on this thing. Y'all rolled in and killed us. And like, I get that there's like, that's supposed to be a fun, like, all right, you better be ready to go. But for a team to like, out of the match we won, we did not execute on well. We happened to find a gap where we happened to win 3 fights in a row, while one of their other team members was doing something that was like the right call, which was going to go stop one of our spawn points that let us keep coming back quickly. And because that person wasn't there to defend, we won that fight. Because all 4 of us just rushed the remaining 3, and then we got it over the last inch of the thing, and that's a win for us. I was like, that doesn't feel fun. Also, then I had the win screen, and it was loading me into another match. Here's a real problem: loading me into another match, and I was like, oh, I don't want to play another match. I'm done for the night. Let me go back to camp. I went back to camp and lost all the money I'd gotten, all the progress I'd gotten, because I hit go back to camp instead of letting it finish the matchmaking. And it's like, well, this is just broken. This is just not.
But I just want to get out. I
just want to get out.
I don't want to be match made.
I would have to have match made, and then I looked this up. I'm not the only person who's hit this. You have to get match made and then quit out instead.
But then you're abandoning a match.
Then I'm abandoning a match. Right. I guess I'd be in the pre-match phase. I'd be the asshole who joins a match and then leaves instantly. And it's like, shut up. Make this work right. Anyway, that's Hood, Outlaws and Legends. Maybe it'll find itself over the future. I want to say it's like not early access, but I think it maybe released. No, I don't see anything that says early access. I thought I saw early access on like PS5 or something like that, or PS4. But anyway, not a big one. Not a big fan on that one. Cado, do you want to talk about Destiny?
Yeah.
You want to talk about the new season?
Destiny. There's a new season that happened Tuesday called Season of the Splicer. And it's great.
It's like because, a BioShock crossover.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got Andrew Ryan in the tower now. Fucking, he's the new fucking Vanguard. Yeah.
He took Cade's place. We finally got
a new Hunter Vanguard. It's Andrew Ryan. Shit. No.
Hunters.
Yeah.
Are
you not?
Are you not? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That's it.
So
what's the vibe?
It's cool. It's neat.
Mithrax is involved.
Mithrax. Yeah. We've been pronouncing his name wrong this whole time. This is actually one of the really interesting parts. So I'm really enjoying the story right now. They essentially there's a Vex kind of a pseudo attack on the tower on the city itself. They don't explain this very well, and I think they're just kind of hand waving it for this season of like the Vex fucked something up and now the sun won't come out. Like the city's in eternal darkness. Wait. I don't understand how. I don't fucking get it. They don't explain. It's just like, yeah, it's a Vex simulation of something, and now there's no sun. So the last human city on Earth is in eternal darkness. Go figure out what we can do. The
sun is still there. If you're on other planets, you can still see the sun.
Yeah, and like it's just the last city on Earth. The last human
they put tinted windows on the tinted city, or on the last city, and now now no one gets any vitamin D.
Yeah, we need to ship some. Yeah, so like the normal population that aren't guardians and aren't like traipsing around the whole solar system that are normally stuck to this one area.
Right.
I think the implication is most of Earth, although I haven't gone to the Cosmodrome and checked if it's just the city or not. But
how about the is EDZ still there?
Yeah, EDZ and Cosmodrome are still bits of Earth that you can go to. But anyways, they're like, okay, so we need to figure out what the fuck the Vex are doing. We've heard that Mithrax, who is a fallen Captain Kel now, I guess, which is their like kind of highest like tier of like commander.
Not quite the Kel of Kels, but still Kel.
Still a Kel. Has been able to hack into their network, like has gone back to a traditional like fallen what's the word I'm looking for? Practice of being a splicer, which was, the Fallen had the Travelers like were in the Travelers' good graces before humanity was, and they like worshipped the machines, and like being a splicer was kind of like the high, like being I don't know, like one of the cardinals of like their machine church, and being able to actually interface with machinery was a big deal to the Fallen before the Traveler left. So he's like,
they stopped doing that at that point.
Yeah, there was like a split. There was a schism of like people who were like dove into like these machines aren't our gods, they're just machines, and like doing the very like kind of cut off from any sort of spirituality thing of like it's just metal and we're gonna use it however we want. And then like Mithrax is like, no, wait, we should like consider an in-between here, where Mithrax, like the like kind of Splicer role is like a very traditionalist role, but and this is all lore that I'm getting in game too, right? This is all like cutscenes and like talking to you like talk to Fallen in this expansion so far. Like, you go on a mission with Mithrax, who does this sick fucking thing where he makes like a black hole that looks like it would fit into like the last Tron movie on Europa.
Wild.
And you like go into it and you're in the Vex network, which also now looks like has a really good really new aesthetic. Like Vex stuff is usually that kind of like rocky stuff that you see on like Nessus or whatever, if you've ever played.
Yeah.
Right now this is like, it's like all like neon pinks and cyans and like blacks and very like digital.
Right.
Like it's a good aesthetic. It looks really cool. And you're kind of in this Vex network trying to figure out ways to, get rid of this eternal night that's on the city, basically.
So you're hacking the Vex network by like diving into it and shooting stuff.
Yeah.
Sure,
The
why
really
not?
neat parts are how much, we're getting a lot more. Like they've started to expand the like kind of cast of people that they're coming back to. In these, like, usually the season was like you have your one NPC who you're going to be hearing from. And that's recently expanded in like the last season. There were like like 3 of them that you could hear more of, and like now it feels like they've got a cast of characters big enough that like you're getting a lot of different viewpoints. We've got a return of Lakshmi too, the head of the Future War cult, who is interested because she uses Vex technology in order to see the future. And so like has a vested interest in like understanding what the Vex are doing, and also has seen some sort of attack on the city where the Fallen are at the center of it. So she's like, I don't want to deal with the Fallen. I don't trust them, even if they say they're helping. And then there's Ikora on the other hand, who's like has offered the Fallen a place in the city. They're like, you know what? Come on in. You're gonna help us out, figure out this Vex thing. Y'all can come and like hang out here instead of having to like, scavenge out in the wilds,
right?
basically.
Yeah.
And so there's more interesting like character tensions here of like having this traditionally like very black and white, like, yeah, the Fallen are enemies. We're not gonna contest that, and beyond, like, there's that one guy who gave you a gun, which was Mithrax in the original, like,
right.
But now it's like, oh no, like, we learn about their culture from them. Like, they tell us about how ether rationing works, which is like a thing that was in a Grimoire book once, something, and like,
right.
But like,
and now there at least there's a actual dialogue in the game about it.
You're like the game itself, like, aside from the Grimoire, is trying to put forward these like interesting kind of political like clashes within the characters, which is really fun. And then the activity itself is also great, just like.
It's not quite a raid, right? It's like it's a 6-person, but it is a 6-person event.
Yeah. So they've done kind of different types of these activities over the past, but it's hard to describe because it's not. I don't know. It's like another one of their like basic activity structure, and ends up being like different takes on horde modes, right? Like it's like waves of enemies. Sure. You have to do some sort of objective. This one's fun. There's like kind of a split thing happening where you're defending a spire on one end, and then every once in a while there's a portal that you have to go through to find a key inside the Vex network. It's fun, and like it's new enough that like it'll be good, but it's not anything like to write home about as far as mechanics. Like mechanically, they're pulling a lot of like it's the moats from Gambit, it's the kind of portal from Gambit. There's basically a new kind of like framing about it, but like mechanically it's the things you've been doing normally, but it's neat. It's got a really great aesthetic. It looks really cool, and it's really fun to run around. There's like they've gone really maximalist with the amount of enemies they throw at you in this game ever since they introduced stasis, because you can freeze them. So it's like, we understand that you're going to be able to freeze a certain amount of these with these crowd control abilities, so we're going to throw more at you, and things become really hectic, and it's fun in that way. Like just like having to kind of corral all the enemies instead of like it being just about like how quickly you can kill them. It's like, oh well, I'll freeze these guys while I deal with this big one over here for a second, and things like that. But yeah, the most interesting part for me definitely is like getting this cast of characters that has grown. Like, you know, you've got Aldrin who's back, weighing in and like being the one to like try to reach out and like the only person I've ever heard try to learn Elixir, which is really neat. Like, just like, here's the word for hello. At least like try to build a bridge with these people. You've got, on the other hand, you've got Lakshmi, like I said before, being like very distrustful because of her future Vex thing and like how she was right about the Red War. But, you know, who knows like whether or not the Fallen are gonna turn. They're probably not gonna turn. I think there's Fallen babies. There's like a bunch of Fallen like swaddled children, and they're adorable.
Yeah, I saw those.
They're so cute. And overall, it's you know, it's a great evolution on like the way that Destiny's been kind of growing as far as like how they tell narrative and how many people they can get involved. I feel like part of that has to do with the voice actors they can hire. They've definitely sought, like, Gina Torres is not Ikora anymore. Ikora's in this a lot. And
oh wow, she's just it's a new voice.
It's a new voice, yeah. Like,
oh, wild. Okay.
And you know, it's like I would rather that, honestly. Like, I'd rather them get someone that can like book easily and regularly, so that there can be more of this kind of cast of characters that all are weighing in, giving different perspectives and viewpoints and interesting thoughts on the current situation as it's happening. So yeah, I'm really enjoying so far. It's only been 1 week, and they're doing the same. You know, they're doing the same kind of structure where it's like you do the activity that week, and then you can like grind out the normal stuff for the week. But come next week, there will be another. You know, like takes about a couple hours. That's all the good of this thing, and then there's the kind of shitty. We had a small piece about this go up about the transmog system in this season that is real bad, but they're really making it seem okay at first because they're giving everyone free materials. But essentially, the way that this works is that you need a specific material in order to transmog a piece of armor so that you can apply its look to whatever you're actually wearing.
Right, that's the thing where like, I really what this looks like, but I need better like stats.
Yeah, I want the stats from another thing, but I want my look to be this armor set. But I don't want to. This armor set can't do the things I want it to do or whatever. And essentially, so like, you know, you have 5 items in your inventory: helmet, arms, chest, legs, and a class item. And for each one of those, you need 1 synth weave in order to turn one piece of armor into something that you can apply to whatever other armor you want, right? So there's a limit to how many you can earn in game, which is 10 per season. So you could turn.
How long is a season again? Season's like months, right?
Yeah, it's like 4 months. So for those 4 months, you can turn 2 full sets of armor into a look, right?
Once.
Well, like once it's done, you can apply that look to whatever armor you want. It's just you can only turn.
I see.
You can only turn
10
that
pieces.
armor. Yeah. You can only you can only pick 10 pieces, which is
does that
2
destroy
sets.
the armor when you use it?
No.
Or does it?
No.
Okay, so it just unlocks that style, basically.
Yes, that's exactly the way it's unlocking a new style for you. So you can unlock 2 full styles in a season. Except for this season where they're throwing that stuff at you. You get 20 essentially just from playing some of the early stuff, which is past the cap. So it's not going to feel bad at first. You'll be like, yeah, I've got like 4 different sets of armor that I can, 4 different looks. But then the really kind of shitty part is that in a normal season, after you earn those 10, like you can't earn any more through gameplay. And the only way to get them is through purchase in the shop, right? Like you have to buy money. Like there's no cap on those, obviously. The cap is about limiting how many you can grind out in the game about grinding.
Is this also right? Gita had a story about this from late April when this first. Is this process still true? 1, defeat enemies to collect something called Synth Strand. 2, spend the Synth Strand on bounties to collect something else called Synth Cord. Then, once you have enough Synth Cord, you need to convert the Synth Cord into Synth Weave, which is what you actually need in the first place. Then spend your Synth Weave to transmog the appearance of a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
That part's still true?
Yes,
Okay.
that is still true. And I think ultimately it's like not too far off from other systems in the game. If you're already playing it, it's like, oh yeah, I recognize
this game.
Yeah, I like recognize this thing. It's really that some of those bounties take way too long, or just it's like it's already like a kind of horrible grind, which would be like, I won't engage with it, but I wish it was easier to get this stuff. But now it's even like, even after you've done all that work, you're still like, and you can't do more of it. Like you're gonna be limited on how much customizability you have in your look, which is just, it's really annoying for a thing that like since Destiny 1, people have been asking for armor transmog and like the ability to really kind of fully be able to customize your look, because it's an MMO. Even though it's first person, there's still a lot of like a large amount of the community that is interested in having more customizability in your character and giving it that like specific flair that you want, right? Like making good fashion. Like the people joke that the real end game is once you've got everything to max light level and don't care about having to grind level, you grind for fashion. You grind for things that look good. So it's really unfortunate to see them come out with this system and have such a strong, there was a strong backlash when that was released, and they have been kind of radio silent on whether they're looking to change that or if it's open to feedback or like what, you know, like there hasn't been any other communication about that system, even though it's the community itself has been pretty fucking loud about how they do not like it. But yeah.
Well, Destiny continues to be Destiny, it sounds like, in terms of like the team had suggesting like they're going to do a thing, and then people being like, "Wait, no, this is actually bad."
Yeah.
Unfortunate. All right. Anything else anyone want to shout out before we wrap up? Rob, how you feeling about that new Judgment game? Just thumbs up, thumbs down. Thumbs up. Thumbs up, everybody. All right. That's going to do it for us. Sadly, we have to have a meeting after this, so we don't have time to dip into the question bucket. But you can send questions for future episodes to gaming@vice.com. We'll be back next week with some more stuff. Is there anything exciting next week, the new that we're going to talk about? Us. Journalists really have too much of a novelty bias. Me. What's new next week?
The game that you and I have been talking about, we can't talk about next week.
Ah, fuck.
That's the week after.
Yeah. Well, we'll find some. Well, there's plenty of stuff to talk about.
Don't you worry.
Don't worry about it. We'll figure something out. We'll find. If not, we'll just dip into that. Well,
that Mass Effect game came. That came out today.
What did?
Mass Effect.
Oh, did that come out today?
Huh.
Damn.
They only gave it to reporters and critics like 2 days before it came out. So
probably there will be something on the website by the time this episode goes up.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, I hope that's good. I'm curious about it. I saw someone streaming it and assumed it was like, oh, it must be out soon. I didn't realize it was out. Well, maybe one of us will touch that. That sounds fun. I'm curious about that first game's stuff. All right. I'm going to wrap it up then. Gaming@vice.com is the address. Waypoint@vice.com. Twitter.com/waypoint. Shout out as always to Bowen for letting us use the track "Miss You" off the EP Pale Machine. Find out more about that. Waypoint.zone/BOEN. You can find me on Twitter at Austin_Walker. Where can people find you, Rob?
At Rob Zachney.
Cado.
At @A_Cado_appears.
Patrick.
At Patrick Klepek.
We'll be back next week. Until then, and probably after then too, fuck capitalism. Go home. Peace.